Welcome back to CryptosRus. I'm George. We're all George. So, Bitcoin holders, brace yourself for the Fed Chair Powell. He will be making a big announcement today during the FOMC meeting, right around 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we will see what he is going to say. Rate hike probably priced in at 25 basis point, but most importantly, what is he going to say about the next one, or is there going to be a next one? Let's talk about this, and let's talk about everything else that's going on today. All right, welcome. The market bell is still working. The best bell in the industry. But right now, it seems like Wall Street is trying to brace for the FOMC meeting. Not in a good way. Pretty red all around today, even though last night Google announced their earnings and so did Microsoft. Both exceed expectations, but Google seemed to be a little bit better than estimations, and they skyrocketed during aftermarket. Microsoft did not, but overall today is looking pretty red, and we'll see what happens with this announcement and meeting. Okay. Now, I have said this before, and I think it'll still be the same. The last few meetings, after Powell said what he needed to say, and after the press conference, the U.S. market did tend to go down. So will we see that again today? Quite possibly. I remember the last two or three, even though he seemed like he was still pretty good, pretty dovish versus hawkish, it didn't matter. The market still kind of dumped afterwards. And then the day afterwards and the day after that, you see a big rally, right? So we could see a repeat of that today, although it really depends on what he says. Maybe he's like, well, this is the last one. We don't need any more. With inflation coming down so hard, maybe we don't need another rate hike in September, and we're just going to watch, right? Wait and see. And if that happens, well, then that'll be very, very dovish and very bullish. So we'll see. We will see. I'll stream it with you guys, 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, so make sure you come in and join in on the fun. We always have a good time watching the boringest conference ever. But yeah, that's going to happen later. Okay, so make sure you tune in. And then, as for, I already said, it's probably going to be a 25 basis point hike. It's already priced in. The big question is, what about the one after that in September? So that's a couple months away, right? What is going to happen then? But here's the thing, okay? Remember that the Fed is in charge of price stability, according to Fed Chair Powell, right? But what he's not in charge of is the diminishing buying power of your dollar, basically, of your money. He is, but, that's not something that he could really control or care about at this point because, the Fed, they keep printing more money. And it's not just the Fed. Central banks around the world, they keep printing more money. They want inflation, right? Powell said he wants to have 2% inflation every year, and it compounds over time. And what happens with your purchasing power? It goes down. And that's not really something that he cares about. Okay, he cares about very elevated levels of inflation, yes. And he cares about bailing the banks, yes. But he will turn on that money printer whenever it suits him, right? And that is why the buying power of the dollar keeps going down, okay? And that top graphic only goes to 2020. It got a lot worse since 2020. The last 3 years, we printed 40% of the circulating supply of all money in existence. So think about that. So that dollar actually went down to probably like 50 or 60 cents. Okay, so it's been getting really bad, right? While Bitcoin has been going upwards and upwards and upwards, right? Well, that last bit going up to a million hasn't happened yet. But you'll see. It'll get there someday because more and more people are looking for a store of value and a hedge against inflation. And more people are getting out of the dollar or getting out of the euro or getting out of the yen or whatever else may be, right? So that's why, You need to invest in assets that appreciate, that can outpace inflation. That's how you truly win. If you hold on a ton of cash all the time, what's going to happen is just like that top graph. You're just going to lose your buying power slowly over time until you realize one day that there's just not that much. Tim Draper also believes in that. That's why he went on Fox News and said, we're going through one of the most exciting decades I think we will ever see in our lifetime because we have Bitcoin transforming the way currency and commerce is done. Now, Tim Draper has been very bullish on Bitcoin for a very, very, very long time. In fact, he bought 30,000 Bitcoin from the Justice Department years ago when it was only $300 each. So, you know, he's done well for himself with Bitcoin and so many other tech companies out there, right? But he still thinks that Bitcoin will reach $250,000 by the end of this cycle. Again, that's not too far off. We're talking about the end of 2025, right? But as we get closer to the halving event and after that, you know, there are some explosive things that are going to happen, including yesterday I covered Bitcoin spot ETFs expirations. You know, the deadlines, most of them are in March, a month before the halving event. You know, just imagine they all get approved, or at least one or a few gets approved, and then you're going to have the halving event. And then, you know what? Who knows what else is coming then, right? There's going to be an avalanche of goodness coming in the next few years. So, absolutely fantastic. Also, this looks at the realized cap, and basically what this summarizes, we are in a bull market. Okay, we are definitely in a bull market. So these peaks are actually when, you know, Bitcoin is kind of stagnant, stale, low, right? And also it basically shows that there's not a lot of selling power at this point. There's a lot of accumulation. But whenever you have a bull run, you have new people coming into this space, right? And then you see Bitcoin start being bought and moved. That's when the graph actually goes down. But right now, basically 71% of Bitcoin has not moved in the last 6 months. Okay, so it's definitely very similar to previous times when Bitcoin was low and boring and it seemed like it was going to go nowhere. And then boom, it starts moving, right? We're right at that stage. So again, that's a good thing. Here's another one, on-chain accumulation trend, okay? 1 is very strong stacking pressure. 0 is weak, and we're somewhere in the middle, a little bit past the middle. We're at 0.6, so it's not super hot yet, but the accumulation has definitely started, and we're definitely not in crypto winter, nowhere close to that, right? So again, this is a great time to be stocking up, DCAing, and making sure that you accumulate because these big boys are coming. They are coming, and they are going to take as many Bitcoins as they can, okay? And the next cycle after this, there's going to be very, very, very little Bitcoin left in existence for retail investors because I do believe all these fund managers and all these big institutions, they will be buying tens of thousands of Bitcoins, taking them out of circulation. And, you know, unfortunately, by then, retail investors that want to get in, it'll be a little bit too late for them because Bitcoin will be at $300,000 or $500,000 or $1 million. And it's going to be really, really, really hard to afford even 0.1 Bitcoin at that point, right? So make sure you load up while things are still cheap, okay? Also, near term, Bollinger Bands on a 1-week scale is tightest ever in Bitcoin's history. Whenever we talked about squeezes, Bollinger Bands is a major indicator that a lot of people look at. Whenever there is a squeeze, there tends to be a volatile breakout one way or another. It could break out upside or downside, okay? So, you know, we've been talking about this for quite some time. Bollinger Band, there will be some kind of mass movement, okay? I think it'll be to the upside. I think we still have a lot of momentum right now. I don't think that has changed. The fundamentals of Bitcoin definitely has not changed. Everything is still looking good. So, I think that next leg up could be right around the corner. But overall, long term, Bitcoin is looking fantastic. Fantastic. All right. And we'll see what happens this afternoon when Fed Chair Powell, of course, does his thing, right? If he is more dovish than hawkish, well, that could be a major catalyst too that, makes this skyrocket, right? Makes us blow past to the upside because of the squeeze. We'll see. We'll see. As for other news, let's see. Reddit, those of you guys that are Reddit and NFT fans, they're preparing to drop their Gen 4 collectible avatars on Polygon. I've not really followed this, but I know a lot of people do enjoy it, and they're one of the, I guess, one of the companies out there that has done pretty successful drops in the past. So, in case you guys are interested, they will be launching their Gen 4 pretty soon. And also, as for Binance, a couple of Binance news. Binance, I did cover before. They will be re-entering Japan. Japan wants to transform themselves. Their prime minister says, Web3 is going to be the future. We need to be part of it. And they're allowing Binance to come back in. So that's pretty positive. Also, what's pretty positive is Japan embracing Web3. You don't really hear about other countries doing the same thing, at least not yet. So they're kind of pushing the trend. And then, unfortunately, on the other side of the world, Binance withdraws German crypto license application. I guess they just can't get it. I don't know what. So they're pulling out of Germany. So that's not good. You have one good, one not so good. And then also there's some controversy. There's a new stablecoin that's coming out called FDUSD. And it was supposed to be listed, but now they've halted it because there's some technical issues. So they're looking into that, right? Like, ever since BUSD shut down, Binance been looking for a new stablecoin to kind of like, to embrace. They have USDT obviously and USDC, but they really want to like embrace something kind of like their own, even though this is not developed by them, from someone else. But it does seem like they're looking for a BUSD replacement at this point. So, so there's that. All right. That is pretty much it today. Of course, let's keep today's session short because, of course, there will be another one at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time when we have a Fed meeting. So we'll discuss more things then. All right, let's do a quick Q&A. Oh, I realized my camera was off. There we go. All right, let's see if I missed anything. Good morning from Denver. In the last meeting, Gina looked great. Powell's in charge of DCA opportunities. Do you think First National Bank being purchased was a way to prevent another bank from collapsing? First Republic, right? That's what you mean? Yes, I do. There's a reason why they merged yesterday. It's because they were going to collapse. So that kind of saved them. But whatever bank, it was like Bank of California or something like that. I'm sure they worked out some kind of deal with the Fed or something, like in case there's there's holes to be patched or whatever. The Fed is going to take care of it. But yeah, that was definitely a bailout. What if he drops a 0.5 hike? It won't happen. There's no reason. If he did that, he'd be fired, basically. There's zero chance of that. If inflation was if CPI and PPE readings showed that inflation was skyrocketing again, that would be a possibility. But it's been dropping by 1 percentage point month to month. There's zero chance it's going to happen. Thoughts about aliens? I don't know. I believe in aliens. There's no chance in hell that the universe is this big without other intelligent life out there. Now, whether or not they visited the Earth, I don't know. That, inconclusive. All this UFO ships, right, could just be advanced government spaceships. But where did they get that advanced technology from? Maybe there was an alien ship that dropped down in Roswell or Area 51, and the U.S. government studying it all this time and trying to replicate its technology, and finally it has. That's why we see all these UFO sightings everywhere. Maybe it's just them playing with their new toys. And Dex asks, "Hi George, is it time to buy sand and mana land NFTs? I own a George NFT. I thought there would be some use case or benefits to holders given by you. Kindly confirm." There is. Like my Vegas event that I'm hosting this week. You are invited if you can come to Vegas. So I think you just haven't been paying attention. And is it the right time to buy sand and mana land NFTs? That's up to you, man. If you want to participate and be a land holder, then sure. I think both of those metaverse projects will come back, obviously, in the next bull run. But is that anytime soon? Probably not. You have to probably wait a couple of years before metaverse projects or metaverses in general gets hot. There were a lot more that basically died off and no one cares about, right? So you have to wait before you see them rise up again. They're demons, not aliens. Brant Moore, honestly, I don't pay attention to anything Gareth says. So I can't comment on any of those things. Do you think Doge will moon soon? Depends on what Elon does with X. If he integrates a crypto wallet and makes Doge one of the currencies supported, then yes, it will. And it has been moving pretty well this last week. KO Bass, what do you think about Coinbase right now? You know what? Coinbase has been very strong. Even today it's up. Barely under 100. I mean, they were just like $40 like a month ago. They're very strong. And I think they will continue to be strong because there's a lot of partnerships brewing. Every single fund company that has an application for a Bitcoin spot ETF, they're using Coinbase as a surveillance partner and also as a custodian. So that's pretty massive. That's massive endorsements from some of the biggest fund companies out there. This SEC lawsuit also lost a lot of steam because XRP was ruled a non-security. Just because it's sold on an exchange or a secondary market doesn't make it a security. Well, if that's the case, then all the securities that the SEC claims Coinbase is selling on its platform, well, if they're not really securities, then the lawsuit just goes away. So I like Coinbase. I think they're in a really strong spot. And plus, they're still way off from the previous high of like 400 or something. Oasis and Ocean Protocol. One is kind of like, one is a data marketplace, and one is, I don't know, like a L1. I mean, I don't really follow them too much. So I've heard of them, but I don't follow them that closely. BTC having it April 26th, then why? What happens and why? Well, Alex, you should just Google that. The inflation rate of Bitcoin gets cut in half. That's why it's called halving. That's why. The next bull run total market cap prediction. That could be tough. I don't know. I would say probably between 8 to 10 trillion. I would say that's a good, so probably like a 6 to 8x. Yeah, I would say that's probably right. 6 to 8 trillion, or no, 8 to 10 trillion. Yeah, I would say like it's more like 8 to 10 trillion. See, if you look at if Bitcoin goes up, Bitcoin will probably be at 4 trillion itself, right? So that would bring us up to about 5 trillion. And then you look at everything else, yeah, it'll be like, I'd say like 8 trillion would be realistic. I think that would be realistic. 10 maybe pushing it, 8 to 10. Nickel. Yeah, that was reported already. And a lot of people think FedNow's ledger is basically a copy of XRP ledger. So I don't know what that really means. Do I think Gary is gone in the next 2 years? Yes, for sure. Gary has made way too many enemies and let way too many companies collapse, and has been making a lot of frivolous lawsuits, which he's going to lose. So I think his job security is sealed, and that is, there is no job security. He's going to be gone soon. What would be the tentative period for a next bull run? Does this follow post BTC? Yes. Normally, that's what happens. Bull runs usually follow. They're shortly after the halving events, but this time around, of course, we have other catalysts. Okay, we already had some when the banking sector got weak. Bitcoin actually got stronger, and that may still be the case. We may see more banks fail. Also, lawsuits. This XRP lawsuit after 3 years, it was great, and I'm sure the other lawsuits will end in victory as well for the crypto companies. And then we have spot Bitcoin ETFs also coming up. There's a lot of catalysts that can drive us forward faster. But if none of those things were around, still, it would just be the halving event. And normally, we see a pretty good movement afterwards. What's your tip on profit taking? I have my portfolio ready, but still confused on how to go about this. There's no right or wrong, okay, answer RN. You just have to find what's right for you. What's your risk tolerance, right? I can't speak for you. I can't speak for a financial condition, your situation, how old you are, how risk averse can you be. But I think an easy way is to make sure that whatever portfolio you have, make sure about 20, 25, 30%, something in there is in cash. And if you see your portfolio start going up in a big way and that cash percentage starts dwindling because your crypto is going up in such a big way, then it's time to sell some off and make sure you replenish that cash pile and make it still 20, 25, 30%. I think that's a really easy way to do it, right? So whenever you see that 30% dwindle down to 10%, okay, then it's like, okay, I need to take some profits, right? Make sure I lock in some of those gains, make sure I have that cash ready so I can continue to DCA, and or we get a major dip, you're able to buy using that cash, right? So, I mean, that's one way to look at it. That's kind of the new strategy for me. But of course, again, it really depends on your situation. If you feel like you're just, you're making too much money and you want to take some off the side just to be sure, no one ever gets hurt taking profits, ever. So keep that in mind. All right, guys, let's conclude. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep it short this morning because, again, I will be streaming again when the FOMC meeting is happening. So that'll be around 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll put up the stream a little bit before, and we'll see what he says, right? And the last few went okay, but this time could be a fantastic one. Can be. Doesn't mean it will, but we'll see what he says about the next rate hike. Is there going to be another one, or is this one it? No more after this. We'll see. We'll see. All right, smash it all like, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in a couple hours. Have a good one. Take care.